I was recently on YouTube and looking at a channel that I look at frequently called Venus Theory. You should check it out. And one of the things that he was talking about was the concept of gear acquisition syndrome. What does that mean? Well, we're all guilty of buying gear because it's there sometimes, or at least most of us are. But in this case, gear acquisition syndrome, I think, really refers to buying gear that you don't need in lieu of using gear that you do need. It's like, don't buy stuff, use it. And if you use it, then it's worth buying. When I was starting to write and record my last album, one of the things I did was I sold virtually everything I owned. And I owned some nice stuff. I owned, some vintage stuff. But at the end of the day, I realized that I owned it, but I wasn't using it. And the reason I wasn't using it was because it just didn't inspire me to use it. And so I thought that what I wanted to do instead was to sell it all and start over and just buy the gear that I believed I would need in order to make the album that I wanted to make. And so I did. I sold it, and over the intervening time, I have bought the guitars, the keyboards, the pedals, the VSTs, whatever I have that I wanted. Now, am I guilty for buying the occasional thing that, because it was on sale? Yeah, well, I have done that too. And what I've done when I bought it was instructed myself to find a way to use it. And sometimes those tools in the toolbox take a while. It's not every day you need a chainsaw. But when you need a chainsaw, it's nice to have it. What do I have here? Well, other than the guitars and the keyboards and the synthesizers and the VSTs, which are all inputs, as they call them, I also have microphones. And I have struggled for a long time to come up with a microphone that supports not just the music I want to make, but the voice that I have, which is sort of baritone. And what I've ended up coming up with is this handy-dandy little item here, which is the Warm WA-87, which is a clone of a Neumann mic, and I use it with this nice Stedman pop filter. And for me, it didn't cost $1 zillion, but it really does the trick for me. And so for microphones, most especially, you need to audition those mics in order to figure out what you need. So those are all kind of the inputs. And maybe we'll talk about, guitars and synthesizers and pedals and all that in more detail at some point. But let's just talk about studio for a moment. My studio is purpose-built. The core of the studio is my MacBook Pro, which goes through the interface. And the interface that I have settled on is the Audient ID44, which is, I think, terrific. It's got great preamps. It's got good controls for the speakers and, multiple DI plugs, and it's really quite a nice system. All of that goes into what is called a CalDigit hub, and the CalDigit hub connects to the Mac. It's a pretty simple item. All of the stuff that gets plugged in, I use a Furman power conditioner because in the past I have had issues of hum in the speakers, and the power conditioner really does a great trick for that. I recommend the Furman one. It's pretty reasonable. Outputs. I have 3 different kinds of outputs. First of all, I have the Aventone mix cubes, which I use actually quite a bit just to hear how the sound is going to sound like on your iPhone. For the bigger speakers, I use Yamaha HS8s, which are about big enough to fill this space. They're not bad. They're like $400 a pair. If you go to a recording studio, the recording studio will have $10,000 speakers, and I recommend you hear your music on $10,000 speakers someday. It'll be interesting for you. And lastly, of course, headphones. Headphones are essential if you're doing vocals, because you want to cut out all the sound in the room except what comes through your headphones and goes out your mic. No ambient noise. I use an output desk from Arcade, I think it is. It's a nice desk. It's heavy as hell and zero fun to put together by yourself. The studio itself is a box. All studios are a box, really. When I was looking at studio design, one of the things that I noticed, and I saw this, the band called The National has a purpose-built studio, and they have this giant window, and I thought, man, I would love a giant window in my studio too. And so when I designed this, essentially what this studio is it's a tough shed. And I had tough shed leave open a big hole for me to put a big window in. I mean, actually what it is it's like a 9-foot sliding door. And it's great because it allows light to come in. It does compromise the acoustics a little bit, but I'm willing to make that trade. As far as acoustics go, acoustics are really important. And what I did is I called a company called G.A.S. Acoustics, and G.A.S. Acoustics gave me a free acoustical design. They told me what kind of panels I needed, where to put them. They gave me a panel list. They sold me the panels, and I put them up, and it all works great. One of the things that's most important when you're making music is the quality of the recording is key. You don't want to have to fix a bad recording in the mix. You've heard this, but what that means is the right mic, the right acoustics, the guitars that are played well. Audition your pieces, assemble them if you have to, but get your best recording. I have the studio designed particularly for me. It's me recording me by myself in a studio. If I was recording other people in the studio would not work at all. If I was recording multiple people in the studio, it wouldn't work at all. But for me, recording myself with my stuff by myself in the studio, this is perfect for me. It is my refuge. It is my sanctuary, and that, I think, is where I would like to leave you, is at the end of the day when you're designing a space to record, what you want is you want a place to allow you to be the most creative you can be. You need a place that allows you to focus. You need a place that allows you to do your best music. You need a place that allows to support your workflow, whatever that is. And you need a place that is separated enough from the day-to-day drama of life that you can get those hours in at times just to make stuff. And lastly, don't buy gear you don't need. Buy gear you're going to use, whatever that is.